The reason she doesn't miss you is because you've never given her a reason to. You text her first. You reply instantly. You drop plans just to be available. You think that consistency will win her over. You think that being the nice guy earns points. But she doesn't respect you. She doesn't feel your absence because she's never had to. You've made yourself too easy to reach, too easy to figure out, too easy to forget. You're here because something deep inside you knows that the way you've been handling relationships isn't working. Maybe you've been too available. Maybe you've explained yourself one too many times. Maybe you've let a woman sit at the center of your emotional world. And now you feel it. That ache, that emptiness, that silence. But I promise you this. Once you understand what I'm about to give you, you'll never be the same man again. This isn't advice you'll find on surface-level channels. This is the Stoic relationship blueprint for men. And I'm building the greatest ebook ever created for men like you. Men who are done begging for attention. Men who are done explaining themselves. Men who are ready to become unforgettable. Comment blueprint if you want to be one of the first to get it. This ebook will completely transform your life, give you the mental clarity of Marcus Aurelius, and the power of a man who walks away and still lives rent-free in her mind. Now let's get started. Number 1. Stop over-investing. You may not realize it yet, but the very way you've been showing love is the reason she doesn't feel it. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll see how often you've overextended, checking your phone constantly, typing long messages explaining what you meant by a joke, liking her stories even when she stopped engaging with yours, sending her a playlist hoping she'd listen, hoping she'd care. You convince yourself you're being genuine, that you're expressing interest, that you're doing what a man should. But beneath all of it is one subtle truth. You're trying to earn her attention. The problem isn't that you care, it's that you're spending effort where it's not reciprocated, and when a woman doesn't have to invest back, she never values the experience. Picture this. You give a woman all your attention, your thoughts, your presence. You make her laugh, you pick her up, you check in often. And over time, instead of growing closer, she grows distant. She starts replying slower, saying she's busy, giving you a rushed good night instead of the long conversations you used to have. Why does that happen? Because you gave her the experience of a man who gives without boundary. And when that becomes the norm, the appreciation fades. Imagine walking into a room where someone gives you everything you want without asking. Now imagine another room where you have to earn someone's respect, where you have to show up and match their energy, where you're challenged to grow. Which room do you remember more? It's the contrast that creates value. When a man stops overgiving and starts matching energy, the dynamic rebalances. You stop chasing, and suddenly she starts noticing. You reply hours later, not to play games, but because you're building your empire, and when you do speak, your words carry more weight. She texts, "Miss you," and for the first time, she actually means it, because there's been space for longing. This isn't about turning cold, it's about protecting your power. If you're always the one investing first, you're always the one with less leverage. If you're always explaining, apologizing, initiating, you're removing the very experiences that make attraction grow. Unpredictability, value, presence earned through effort. Ask yourself, when was the last time you let her miss you? When was the last time she initiated without you prompting it? When you stop trying to earn her feelings and start demanding reciprocity, everything shifts. Your attention becomes rare, your words become measured, your time becomes sacred, and suddenly you're no longer the man trying to impress her. You're the man she can't stop thinking about because your absence started saying more than your words ever could. That's how you start the transformation. That's when she realizes she had something powerful. and let it slip. Number 2. Control your time. Most men don't realize the power they hand over when they make time for a woman who hasn't earned their priority. Your time is not just a clock ticking on your wall. It is the essence of your focus, your ambition, your discipline, and your future. Every minute you dedicate to someone who doesn't value it, who treats your messages like an interruption instead of an opportunity, is a minute robbed from your own evolution. Think about it. You cancel your gym session because she's suddenly free. You skip your reading, delay your business task, postpone your responsibilities because there's a small window where she might give you a fraction of her attention. And in doing so, you just told her without words that her presence matters more than your purpose. She won't consciously punish you for this, but attraction dies in subtle ways. She'll start to feel that you're accessible, that your time has no gate, that your life pauses when she arrives. And that is not a trait that breeds respect or longing. Respect is born when you keep moving, when you build regardless of who's watching, when you rise at the same hour, grind with the same hunger, and show up for your mission no matter who texts you. Picture 2 men. One waits for her replies, his schedule wide open, always ready to drop everything just to meet her for coffee. The other is on the move, meetings, workouts, learning, teaching, creating, and when she calls, he says, "I'm free for 30 minutes next week." Which one feels more valuable? Which one is remembered? Which one becomes a standard in her mind? A man who commands his time is a man who commands respect, because his life has structure, boundaries, and rhythm. And in that rhythm, women feel safe, challenged, and drawn in. This isn't about being unavailable just to appear cool. It's about truly living in alignment with what matters. Because when you truly start building your vision, when your calendar becomes filled with intentional action, you'll stop craving validation from someone who doesn't text back. You'll no longer check her status to see if she's online, because you'll be locked into your progress. And here's the paradox. That's when she starts checking in more. That's when the woman who once felt out of reach begins to ask where you've gone, who you've become, and whether there's still a space for her. A man of discipline, of structured time, of purpose that flows like a current through his week. That man is rare. That man is respected. And the most beautiful truth of all, that man becomes harder to forget with every hour he gives to himself instead of chasing someone else's attention. Prioritize your time, and you prioritize your self-worth. Guard your schedule like it's sacred, and watch how people, women especially, begin to value every second they get with you. Number 3. Master emotional control. If you want to change your life, start by realizing that the man who cannot regulate his emotions will never be respected, not by women, not by the world, and most dangerously, not by himself. Every time you raise your voice in anger over a delayed reply, every time you let her cold tone ruin your day, every time you shift your plans because you feel insecure that she might be losing interest, you are sacrificing your leadership role in the relationship, whether you're aware of it or not. Think about the man who flinches when she withdraws affection, who starts over-explaining when she gives short replies, who escalates arguments because he doesn't feel heard. Now compare him to the man who pauses, thinks, and chooses stillness over emotional reaction. That second man might say fewer words, but every word lands with the weight of intention, because it's not born from need, it's born from internal control. The emotional man tries to force clarity. The centered man allows space for truth to reveal itself. One acts out of fear, the other moves from inner calm. This principle isn't just about being stoic, it's about being grounded in reality, especially in the world of relationships, where your reaction is often your most expensive decision. If every disagreement becomes a debate, every disagreement becomes an emotional outburst. Every change in her tone becomes a crisis. She will never trust you as her rock. She will experience you as emotionally needy, and over time, that weight becomes unattractive. But when you can take a step back, choose restraint, take responsibility for your own state and actions, and refuse to let any person dictate your peace, something shifts. You become the emotional environment, not the man who's shaped by it. That's when a woman starts to feel safe in your presence, because she no longer has to manage your insecurities. She can simply experience your strength. This isn't about being cold. It's about being composed. When a woman sees you receive tension with patience, receive testing with a smile, receive disrespect without compromising your standards, but without emotional chaos, you elevate in her mind. You become the rare example of a man who doesn't need reassurance to know his value, a man who can walk away without drama, not because he doesn't care, but because he refuses to lose himself to win someone who's undecided. And if you think emotional control means bottling things up, you've misunderstood it entirely. The goal is not to feel nothing. It's to feel everything and still choose clarity over chaos. Emotional control doesn't mean silence. It means intention. You don't yell when you feel disrespected. You set a boundary and leave. You don't beg for attention when she pulls back. You redirect focus to your path. You don't argue when she tests your limits. You calmly decide if she's still aligned with your values. In this space, power returns to your hands. You stop being the man who apologizes for setting a standard, and you start being the man who others adjust their behavior around. Your calm becomes contagious. Your presence becomes leadership. Your actions become legacy. And in that energy, women don't just respect you. They admire you, remember you, and wonder what makes you so deeply centered while every other man crumbles at the first sign of emotional withdrawal. That's how you stay on her mind. That's how you start living as the kind of man even time doesn't forget. Number 4. Create a life she can't touch. There is a version of you that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't hope she finally sees your worth. A version of you that's too immersed in building a meaningful, powerful, grounded life to even consider whether she approves of it. And until you become that version, you'll always suffer. Because when a woman senses that your world revolves around her approval, the mystery dies, the tension fades, the desire erodes. A man who builds his life like a fortress, brick by brick, with purpose, discipline, routine, and unshakable vision, becomes a gravitational force, and you don't have to be rich, famous, or perfect to embody this. You only have to commit to a path greater than validation. Every time you choose your goals over short-term comfort, every time you wake up early to train while others sleep in waiting for a text, every time you keep your phone on silent while studying your craft or reading philosophy or mastering a new skill, you are creating a life that shines, with or without a woman beside you. And in doing so, you become rare. Imagine 2 men, one who texts her, waits for her, centers his plans around her availability, who pauses his ambition because she might call later, and another who's locked into becoming something, a business owner, a creator, a man known for what he brings to the world. And when she calls, he's deep in momentum. She feels it. She feels the difference. One man is hoping to be chosen. The other has chosen himself. And in that energy, women don't just respect you. They crave access to you, because now being around you isn't about fun or flattery. It's about proximity to a mission, a movement, a masculine direction she rarely encounters. This life you're building doesn't exclude women, but it doesn't revolve around them either. And that's the difference. You become a man who doesn't post for likes, doesn't update his story to be seen, doesn't mold his identity to attract, but lives so fully, so unapologetically in his lane, that attraction becomes a side effect, not the aim. The gym isn't for validation. It's because discipline is freedom. The business isn't for applause. It's because legacy is your duty. The boundaries aren't to prove a point. They're because your peace has a price. And when a woman enters your world and sees that your mission isn't just something you do, it's who you are, she steps differently. She respects your time. She adjusts her tone. She considers her place in your life, because for once she's not with a man trying to earn her. She's with a man building something too big to slow down. That's when longing begins. That's when you leave an impression. That's when she starts imagining a life around your rhythm, because you've shown her what it looks like to live for something real. This is the path to attraction that never fades. Not loud, not flashy, not desperate, but full of presence, direction, and grounded power. Build the life she can't touch, and you'll never have to beg her to stay. She'll struggle to forget what it felt like to witness a man who finally chose to rise for himself. Number 5. Never explain yourself. One of the most subtle ways men lose respect, power, and attraction is through excessive explanation. Not just in words, but in energy, in body language, in the need to justify every action, emotion, or shift in tone. If a woman asks why you didn't reply right away, and you jump into a monologue about how busy your day was, how traffic delayed your meeting, how you still care and were just swamped, you think you're showing thoughtfulness. But what she feels is insecurity. She doesn't need the itinerary of your day. She needs to feel the presence of a man who doesn't waver in his stance simply because she questions it. You don't need to defend decisions that align with your values. If you said no to dinner, if you declined her last-minute invite, if you took space without giving her an update, understand that it's not cruelty, it's clarity, and clarity rarely needs a paragraph. The more you explain, the more you invite negotiation around things that were never meant to be negotiated. And the moment she sees that you can be talked out of your position, the erosion begins. Not because she doesn't care, but because attraction is built on certainty, and every unnecessary explanation whispers that your certainty was fragile to begin with. You are not a product that needs to be marketed. You are not a child who owes a report. You are a man who operates by principle, and principles are self-explanatory to those who respect them. If you feel the need to explain everything, pause and ask yourself why. Is it because you feel guilt, or because you fear being misunderstood? And if the answer is yes to either, then your actions weren't aligned with your truth to begin with. Because when your actions are clean, your path is stable, and your heart is clear. You don't need her to understand it. You need only to walk it. Think back to the men you've admired, not the loud ones, but the ones whose energy entered the room before they did. Those men weren't explaining where they were or why they were quiet. Their very presence was their statement. You must begin to embody this energy, not as a tactic, but as a return to your essence. You're not avoiding vulnerability. You're mastering composure. When you set a boundary, keep it. When you decline an invite, own it. When you make a move, stand by it without waiting to see how she reacts. Your need to explain is rooted in fear, and fear is the opposite of masculine leadership. So instead of apologizing for your shift, invite her into the man you are becoming, not with words, but with conviction. She will question you, test you, even resist your change. That's fine. What matters is whether you flinch. And if you don't, if you maintain your posture and live in alignment with your path, she won't just accept it eventually, she will be drawn to it. She may not say it out loud, but deep down, women are starving for men who don't fold under pressure, who don't feel the need to turn every decision into a conversation, who can stand in the tension without turning it into a plea for validation. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop bleeding power, and in that vacuum of over-explanation, something new grows: trust, respect, desire. She doesn't need a man who bends. She needs a man who leads, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then. Number 6. Leave her curious. What captures a woman's mind and lingers in her memory long after you're gone is not how often you told her you missed her or how consistently you validated her. It's how deeply she felt your presence and how little she could predict your next move. Curiosity is the fuel of obsession, and in relationships it is not the fully known that excites. It is the mysterious, the layered, the man whose energy never fits neatly into categories. The man she can't quite figure out is the man she keeps returning to in her thoughts, trying to replay conversations, wondering if that half smile meant something more, wondering why he didn't respond to her passive-aggressive comment, wondering who he's thinking about when he seems to drift off mid-conversation. You create that tension, not by being manipulative, but by being rooted in depth. When your life has layers, when your thoughts run deeper than the surface, when your priorities stretch beyond pleasure into mission, into meaning, into refinement, she starts to feel like there's more to explore, and that exploration becomes the very reason she stays connected. Ask yourself, are you easy to read? Have you told her your every fear, your every plan, your emotional state every hour of the day? Do you text her first every morning, update her about every meeting, send her your schedule without being asked? That's not connection, that's overexposure. You've removed the art of discovery, and in doing so, you've dulled her emotional engagement. The greatest relationships are not built on full transparency at all times. They're built on a dance, a rhythm, a pull and release that keeps the energy alive. She doesn't want to know every detail about your day. She wants to feel like she's discovering a man who knows how to hold space, who doesn't flinch under emotional tension, who lets his actions speak, and whose words, when finally shared, carry weight because they are rare. Think of a movie where everything is revealed in the first 5 minutes. Where's the excitement? The emotional investment dies quickly. The story that unfolds in layers, that reveals itself only to those who earn it. That story is unforgettable. You must become that story. Your social media should not reveal your entire life. Your conversations should not be filled with play-by-plays. Your eyes should sometimes hold truths you don't share, unless asked directly. This doesn't mean you become cold or disconnected. It means you stop trying to fill space with information and start letting your energy create presence. When you pause before answering a question, when you smile instead of explaining, when you change the subject instead of diving into drama, you create contrast, and that contrast draws her in. The truth is, when she doesn't know exactly where she stands with you, when there's enough care to keep her safe, but enough restraint to keep her wondering, she invests more, she shows up more, she feels more. Women thrive in emotional movement, and when you remove all uncertainty, you remove the heartbeat of romance. So stop seeking her understanding. Start embodying your mystery. Make her earn the parts of you that matter most, not as a game, but as a form of self-respect. The more you give up front, the less weight your presence carries. The less you reveal, the more power your words will eventually hold. And in this space, she won't just miss you when you're gone, she'll feel haunted by the depth she never fully reached. That is the beginning of emotional imprint. That is the mark of a man who doesn't need to beg to be remembered. He simply exists with enough depth that forgetting him feels like forgetting a part of herself. Number 7. Prioritize your purpose. There is no force more magnetic, more respected, more deeply unforgettable than a man who is devoted to his purpose. Not in theory, not in speeches, but in his daily actions, his disciplined routines, and his unshakable sense of direction. When you prioritize your purpose, you don't just change your schedule, you change your energy, your presence, your gravitational pull in every room you enter. Most men have been conditioned to believe that the ultimate reward in life is the approval of a woman, that their value is measured by how desirable they are to her, that success in relationships equals personal success. But this path leads only to one place: weakness masked as romance, sacrifice disguised as love, and eventual burnout born from a misplaced center. The truth is, when you abandon your mission to win her attention, you lose both. You lose the woman, and you lose yourself. Because a woman may be flattered by your focus on her, she may enjoy your attention for a while, but eventually she will resent you for not being more. She will feel the weight of your emotional dependence. She will see that you orbit her, and in that orbit she will feel the absence of leadership, of vision, of direction, and that absence will drain the very attraction she once felt for you. A man without purpose is a man who reacts. A man with purpose moves with clarity, and you can see it in everything he does. The way he wakes up without snoozing the alarm, the way he structures his day without leaving space for distractions, the way he says no, calmly, directly, without needing approval. This man doesn't cancel his goals for last-minute dates. He doesn't pause his learning, training, building to check if someone is still interested. He is the momentum. He is the signal. And when a woman sees this kind of man, she doesn't just desire him, she respects him. She fears losing access to him because she knows he's going somewhere fast, and she must elevate to stay close. That is the difference between being liked and being remembered. Being liked is easy. Be available, be agreeable, be entertaining. But to be remembered, to be felt in her soul long after you've left, to be the man she dreams about when she's alone at night, you must be something beyond romantic. You must be built from mission, and that mission doesn't need to be perfect or glamorous. It only needs to be real. Maybe your mission is financial independence. Maybe it's spiritual growth. Maybe it's building a body that reflects your discipline. Maybe it's creating content that shifts minds. Whatever it is, if it doesn't consume you more than she does, you will always be pulled off track by her attention. This isn't a punishment. This is the design. You were not built to chase. You were built to build. And the moment you forget that, you start becoming replaceable. Because if she doesn't feel you moving toward something powerful, something sacred, something bigger than both of you, she will place you in the category of men who were emotionally available but energetically lost. The greatest paradox of attraction is that the man who needs her least is the man she wants most, not because he's playing games, but because he is too consumed with building his kingdom to be ruled by her mood. And in that kingdom, when she earns her place beside you, when she contributes to your vision instead of distracting you from it, when she aligns with your rhythm instead of expecting you to dance to hers, that's when relationships thrive, not in emotional codependency, but in shared direction. But you must go first. You must lead. You must care more about your next 5 years than her next 5 texts, because women come and go, feelings shift, situations change, but your purpose is eternal, and the man who builds from that place is never truly alone, because he walks with the fire of destiny behind him. That fire cannot be faked. It must be forged. Every time you hit the gym instead of waiting on a text, forged. Every time you build your brand instead of validating her doubts, forged. Every time you say no to chaos and yes to creation, forged. And in that fire, something extraordinary happens. You become more than a man who was liked. You become the standard, the symbol of masculine presence, the story she tells her friends about the one who never needed her to become unforgettable. That is how legacy begins. That is how longing is born. That is how you stop being an option, and start being the one who redefined what it meant to be chosen. And now we arrive at the part most men never reach, the part where the knowledge is in your hands, the awareness is sharp, The direction is clear, and the only question left is, will you act? Or will you keep playing small, waiting on her messages, giving energy to women who don't return it, sacrificing your strength for comfort, explaining yourself to people who don't respect you, showing up for everyone except yourself? Because while you've been trying to be a good man, someone polite, understanding, endlessly giving, the truth is, the world hasn't shown you the same grace. You've been ignored after giving everything. You've been told you're too much for loving deeply. You've been laughed at for your ambition. And worst of all, you've been made to believe that your emotional pain isn't valid, that your desire for respect is toxic, that your yearning for power is dangerous. But it's not. It's your nature. It's your calling. And I created something that answers it. The Stoic Relationship Blueprint. It's dropping very soon, and it's not just a book. It's a rebirth. It's the manual we should have been handed when we were 16 and confused. It's the map for how to lead, how to love, how to live, on your terms. Inside you'll find the framework to rebuild your mindset, restructure your time, rewire your expectations, and reconnect with the man you were always meant to be. Not a servant to emotions, not a slave to validation, but a man rooted in principle, respected by women, admired by peers, and feared by weakness. And if you felt lost, heartbroken, misunderstood, or betrayed, this blueprint will become your armor. It will speak to your pain and then show you how to alchemize it into power, into peace, into purpose. Because the truth is, you are not broken. You've just been misled. But that ends now. If you're ready to never beg for attention again, to stop chasing women who never saw your worth, to rise into a life where they chase you, then this is your moment. Comment the blueprint below if you're serious about completely transforming your life and relationships for good. And when this book drops, don't just download it. Study it, master it, and become the man the world forgot you were capable of being. Support this channel, not just for me, but for the men who haven't found this message yet. For the men still in pain, still in confusion, still giving everything and receiving nothing. With your support, we can bring this truth to every man who needs it. And maybe one day they'll say it wasn't therapy or fame or luck that saved them. It was finally hearing the words they were waiting for their entire life.